guys, welcome back to another video. So I haven't done a market update in quite some time, it feels like. So I think it's time to look at what is going on with the general market as well as the spot market for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds. As always, we're going to take a look at the net change in authorities, the diesel prices, the rejections and volumes in the general market, and then we're going to break down the spot market for reefers, dry vans, and flatbeds. Ready? Let's go! So jumping right in, I'm going to attach all the charts right here and zoom in when necessary, but let's go ahead and start with the net change in carrier authorities. I'm going to be looking at my screen. So week over week, we have lost a net of 579 carriers net. So more carriers left than came in, obviously. Now, taking a look at the difference between what spot carriers get paid versus what contract carriers get paid, you can see that the margin got bigger. So usually the higher it is, the line, the smaller the margin between contract and spot carrier earnings. Currently, we're seeing that contract carriers are getting on average about 51 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. Now, let's take a look at what's happening with volumes. The green line is 2024. The blue line in the corner, left corner right there, that is 2025. And you can see that this year we're starting off way below 2024 levels when it comes to general freight volume. This is not for spot market, and this is not specifically for any equipment type. But yeah, unfortunately, way below those 2024 levels this time last year. Now, in terms of rejections, it's the opposite. You can see that the blue line is way higher than where we started off in 2024, which is in the green. And currently, actually, the average rejection is 7.2%. So not bad, but unfortunately, the lack of volume definitely offsets what ends up on the spot market here. And if you're interested in understanding what is a rejection versus volume and how do they go together in terms of how much volume ends up on the spot market, leave me a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer it. All right, now in terms of diesel truck stop actual price per gallon, what's happening with diesel prices? Again, 2024 in green, 2025 in blue. I might be making mistakes here. I'm still not used to the fact that we are in the year 2025. I still think we're in 2024, just so you know. But yeah, 2025 is starting off way lower in terms of the diesel prices than 2024 was. But as you can see, it's climbing up, unfortunately. And I think it has to do with the weather. Currently, diesel prices are on average $3.56 per gallon. And this is according to truck stops. All right, now let's move on to the spot market. And as always, we're going to start with those dry vans. So week over week, it looks like dry vans saw a 2-cent increase in the spot market in terms of their rate per mile. And this is the week ending on December 27th versus the week ending on January 3rd. Now, year over year, it looks like the rate is actually 2% higher this year than last year. Volumes week over week increased by almost 37% on the spot market for dry vans, but year over year, they are down 23%. Now, using Sonar, I usually calculate rejections versus volumes in the general market, and that way I can figure out which areas have more contract freight going to the spot market because of higher volumes and higher rejections. The top 5 areas where more volume hits the spot market for dry vans are Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Kansas City, Missouri, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Ontario, California. Now, on the other side, you're going to see the spot market load to truck ratio according to DAT, and it's going to be hot, hot, lukewarm, lukewarm, and hot. But let me explain what that means. This is looking at the capacity side on the spot market since Volume doesn't mean anything without capacity when trying to figure out where do you have more negotiating power. So let's start with Ontario, California. Right here, you can see that it's red. It's a hot market. It's also surrounded by a few hot markets, so not a lot of deadheading trucks. You might have some negotiating power there on the spot market if you have a dry van. Moving on to Dallas, Texas, wow, it's surrounded by hot markets, so again, more negotiating power there. Moving to Atlanta, Georgia, also much better than it was in previous months, surrounded by lukewarm or hot markets, except for that one place in Georgia where it's a cool market, but there are not going to be that many deadheading trucks there. Now, moving to Kansas City, Missouri, that is a lukewarm market, and unfortunately, it's surrounded by either cool markets or there are some hot markets surrounding it, but there is more possibility that trucks will be deadheading to Kansas City, Missouri, and diluting the situation further. Not as much negotiating power. And finally, Green Bay, Wisconsin is a lukewarm market surrounded predominantly by cool markets. So yeah, there might be some negotiations you can do, but nothing crazy. All right, next we have reefers. And again, this is data by FTR Intel, by the way. But again, this is the week ending on December 27th versus the week ending on January 3rd. So week over week, rate per mile on the spot market increased by an average of 10 cents per mile for reefers. Year over year, compared to this time last year, the rates are 2.5% higher, which is great. Volumes week over week went up 28%, and year over year, they're up about 0.4% for reefers. Now, using that sonar system, again, I try to figure out where does more volume fall to the spot market from the contract market. For reefers, the top 5 are Fort Worth, Texas, Twin Falls, Idaho, Fargo, North Dakota, Ontario, California, and Allentown, Pennsylvania. And if you look to the other side, the load to truck ratio, pretty much all of those markets by themselves, without taking into consideration what surrounds it, they are hot markets. So let's take a look. So you can see again, starting in Ontario, similar to dry vans here. Yeah, hot markets surrounded by a lot of hot or warm markets or lukewarm markets when it comes to Central California, but not a lot of deadheading trucks, not a lot of people diluting the situation in terms of negotiations. Now, moving on to Twin Falls, Idaho. Idaho in general is a hot market, and the deadhead is, it's usually either from Wyoming, which is cool. So yeah, unfortunately, there might be some deadheading trucks from Wyoming, but for the most part, yeah, there's negotiating power there. Then we have the Fort Worth, Texas area, not as good as for dry vans. It's a hot market by itself. It is surrounded by some questionable markets. So yeah, might be some deadheading trucks. Fargo, North Dakota is a warm market by itself. On the right side in Minnesota, it is a hot market, a lot of hot areas. But on the left side, if there's anyone delivering anywhere else in North Dakota, they're going to be deadheading to Fargo, diluting the situation in order to get their next load. So negotiating power, more questionable. And finally, Allentown, Pennsylvania, also hot market by itself. There might be some deadheading trucks, unfortunately, from places like Maryland or upstate New York, even the western side of Pennsylvania. So yeah, might be some dilution in terms of capacity. More capacity might end up there to get their next load. All right, finally, we have flatbeds, the equipment that unfortunately at this point we are specializing in our company. And again, December 27th through January 3rd, this is the week we're looking at. Week over week, flatbeds saw a 3-cent decrease in the spot rate per mile, although this is not the season for flatbeds, so it's not really surprising. But year over year, unfortunately, rates are 2% lower right now than this time last year. Now, volumes week over week increased by 78 points, almost 79%, which is normal after the holidays. But Year over year, if we're comparing apples to apples, yeah, volumes on the spot market for flatbeds are 30% lower right now. Now, in order to figure out better areas for flatbeds, I create my own maps using truck stop data. So let's take a look at the loads. The darker an area a state is, it's by state, unfortunately, the more loads come out of that state. So you can see that the South is where the loads are at, as well as the Midwest and just in general, the eastern part of the United States. That's where more flatbed loads come out of. Now, what about capacity? Where are the flatbed trucks at in terms of the spot market? Well, capacity, again, the darker an area, the more flatbed capacity there. You can see also they're migrating towards the south and the eastern part of the United States, although some are in California as well. People don't want to go to places like Wyoming, Montana, Oregon, and Nevada, clearly, although Mississippi and West Virginia are also lacking in capacity, but that's probably because not a lot of loads go to these areas. So putting capacity and the load volume together, we get the load to truck ratio for flatbeds. Where can you negotiate higher rates? So anything burgundy red, like New Mexico, for example, this is severe overcapacity. There is less than half a load per truck. So yeah, it's questionable if you're going to get a good rate. You might get lucky, but don't expect a lot. Anything red, which is the majority of the United States, unfortunately, that's still overcapacity. It's still less than a load per truck, unfortunately. Anything orange, like Idaho or Wyoming, that is pretty much equilibrium. That is 1 to 1.5 loads per truck. There is a margin of error, of course, but yeah, pretty much equilibrium. Anything yellow, which are only 2 states, Nevada and Montana, that is slight, ever so slight under capacity. It's about 1.5 to 2 loads per truck. Green, Louisiana, Michigan, Washington, Oregon, Minnesota, this is under capacity. There are 2 to 3 loads per truck posted on the load board. And anything blue, which are a few states this time around, this is moderate under capacity. There are between 3 to 10 loads. It's actually very interesting. Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama are normal. I mean, it's usually that way. Usually there are a lot of loads per truck. That's where you can negotiate better rates. But the Northeast, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine actually have moderate undercapacity. So yeah, guys, I don't have anything really to share about our week. It's been normal. We had the audit, which we thank God passed. So that is amazing. But in terms of the load board, I am noticing, again, continuing to notice that brokers are more open to negotiating. They are having a little bit of a harder time finding trucks. The weather is questionable right now, especially for flatbeds. Not a lot of people want to be subjected to the elements right now, but I guess we'll wait and see how the year progresses. Anyway, guys, wishing you all a fantastic rest of your week. On Friday, I'm going to be releasing a video about Carrier 411 freight guards and the new system that he has in mind, so keep an eye out for that, and I will see you in the next video.